We all love Disney's Descendants movies, but after watching Disney's new film, Zombies, we couldn't help but notice some similarities between the two. Stay tuned to find out which age-old tale Zombies takes a cue from. New to the trendy? Don't forget to give this video a big thumbs up and subscribe for more great content. Now, here's Descendants vs. Zombies, 5 differences and 5 similarities. Not evil. The Descendants films and Zombies may seem to have a few obvious similarities, but there are also some major differences between them. For example, the zombies in Zombies weren't born into their evil nature. They became zombies after an accident at their town's power plant resulted in an explosion. Before that, they were completely normal kids living ordinary lives. But this was not the case for the villain children in the Descendants franchise. They were brought into the world by villainous parents, which means that they are rotten to the core. Of course, that doesn't mean that they aren't able to break out of their evil familial cycles, which is what some of them end up doing. Romeo and Juliet. Since Zombies just came out in February 2018, we're not experts on the ins and outs of the film just yet, but at its core, this movie is more a zombie remake of Romeo and Juliet than anything else. It's about 2 kids who can't be together because one of them might eat the other one's brains, but they obviously fall in love anyway. Isn't that pretty much the storyline of Romeo and Juliet? Well, minus the brain eating. On the other hand, Descendants is definitely less of a Romeo and Juliet story. It focuses more on magic, familial ties, and friendships. But we are totally excited that Disney's Zombies is a modern post-apocalyptic take on such an old age story. Relationships. Though both movies feature relationships, the way that they began is completely different. In Descendants, Mal's relationship with Ben started as a way to distract him. She was toying with his emotions to help her evil mother achieve the power that she so desperately craved. Their relationship didn't start because they both liked each other. In fact, Mal had to first cast a spell on Ben to get him to love her. But eventually, these two did end up falling genuinely in love. In Zombies, the relationship between Zed and Addison grew out of pure interest. Neither of them had anything to gain by dating the other. They actually both had quite a bit to lose. Timing. Fairy tales seem to have an inherent old quality about them. You might even say that these kinds of tales are as old as time. Even though Descendants put a new spin on old stories, it still takes place in a world where fairy tales exist. Zombies, on the other hand, takes place in a post-apocalyptic world filled with zombies. So these 2 films are clearly set in completely different time zones. We haven't been given exact timelines for either film, but if we had to guess, we'd say that they are set in completely different universes. Can you imagine if zombies and villains were allowed to walk around in the same world? That would be way too much for us mere mortals to handle. Motivation. When it comes to characters and plot lines, motivation is always important. The motivation for the characters in Descendants is completely different from the motivation of the characters in Zombies. In Descendants, the villains wanted their power back, and they wanted to punish the people that took it away from them. In Zombies, all the zombies wanted to do was eat people's brains. The reason behind the zombies' banishment had nothing to do with power or stopping a hostile takeover. It was simply to protect the townspeople, and with the invention of bracelets that stop the zombies' appetites for humans, the zombies are able to completely break free from their urges. In contrast, the Descendants kids will always have villainous parents and will never be able to completely break away. In crowd versus out crowd. Now let's get into the ways that these movies are similar. We all know what school is like. Everyone separates into distinct groups, and kids usually only hang out with others from their group. In both the Descendants movies and Zombies, this kind of behavior is a running theme. In Descendants, the villains tend to stick together. In Zombies, the undead stick together and the popular kids cling to each other. But the interesting thing in both films is that some of the characters work to get rid of the barriers that separate their groups. It's pretty great to see that even in movies, people are able to get out of their comfort zones and connect with others. Banished. Both films deal with groups of people that were banished from the normal population. In the Descendants films, it's the villains. They were banished to the Isle of the Lost as payback for all their previous wrongdoings. This land is surrounded by a barrier that prevents any magic from being used. In Zombies, it's the zombies who are separated from the rest of the town. The people who weren't infected by the zombie outbreak created a wall that forced the undead to live in Zombie Town. We can't really blame them though. If there were zombies walking around looking for brains to eat, we'd probably want to separate ourselves from them as well. high school. Both of these films could have had some really cool settings. The Descendants films could have showcased more of the magical world that they live in, but most of the story unfolds inside of a high school. It's the same thing with zombies. Both of these plot lines really get going once the Banished groups in each movie are allowed to join the other kids at their high school. In the grand scheme of things, this isn't really surprising. Disney loves to center its films around high school. Some of its top-grossing films have been set in places of education, so why break the mold now? Musicals. What goes better with a high school movie than a musical? The answer is nothing, which is probably why the creators of both of these Disney movies chose to make them musicals. Did you know that Descendants was originally intended to be a regular film without all of the singing? Can you imagine this franchise without its iconic musical numbers? We certainly can't. It would take away some of the magic of the films. We are definitely happy that they decided to add songs in. We're even more ecstatic that Disney blessed us with yet another musical in the form of Zombies. Romance. What's a good teenage movie without a great romance? Boring, that's what. And as we already know, Disney movies are anything but boring. To keep these two films from being giant snooze fests, Disney added some romance to them both. In Descendants, it's the relationship between Mal and Ben that makes audiences fall so deeply in love with the franchise. In Zombies, it's the relationship between Zombie Zed and Human Addison that keeps us all on our toes. Can you believe that a zombie could ever date a human? These larger-than-life romantic scenarios are what keep us coming back for more. That's it for Descendants vs. Zombies. 5 differences and 5 similarities. Let us know which similarity surprised you the most in the comments below. Thanks for watching.